With the prayers of Holy Father, so Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy on us and save us. Good evening for those new here. My name is Father Joseph Swayden. I've worked in Orthodox apologetics since 1998, and I'm the founder of NFT, True Orthodox, and Ecumenical News since 2004. We've been in the apologetic space on Facebook since 2016 and on YouTube since 2018. If you appreciate what we do here, please like and subscribe. Today we do our live Q&A session where you can get your questions answered live as well as member-requested video reviews. So let's get started. And as always, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, just click on the link at the top of the chat, the YouTube chat. Oh boy, we have a lot of comments here to start. So let's get started. As always, we do start with those that are from our members and from our donors. Give me a second here. I'm trying to untangle something. Okay. And so we've got quite a few, so let's get started. First off, good evening. God bless you all. To those who asked, if anyone asked. Father Simeon, new member, thank you very much. Members are what keeps the show going, as well as your support. Let's see here. St. Maximus the Confessor is another good example of someone upholding the true faith while heresy eats away at patriarchs, bishops, etc. all through the empire. Good evening, and all here. Father bless, God bless you. Orthodox Wasna says good evening. Father Boniface says greetings. Orthodox Wasna asks Father Boniface a question. Atomic Lead mentions to the user at the beginning, who I'm going to answer those questions as soon as we get through this. Excellent username. Woodchuck Norris. That is pretty funny, actually. Okay, and so that was for Frontier School of the Bible. No, tell me about them. Okay, so it sounds like this is kind of a pre-show conversation. Let's see here. Sunrise says greetings. Florida Bible College, a youth group, Delaware Grand Youth Ranch. It was run by graduates there. School in belly up due to scandal. Orthodox Wellness says, I went to a school in Wyoming called Frontier School of the Bible. They were part of the IFCA. And as I mentioned, call in live. We have a link up there. You may have noticed the title was fairly ominous, and I will be explaining that as soon as I get through with the questions and comments. Father Boniface on the IFCA, Grace Chapel, Havertown, Dr. John Woolward. Father Simeon asks, was John Woolward an author? Yes, and former president. Sorry about that. Father Joseph, I like the intro music and scene. I'd love to take credit for it. It's actually part of StreamYard. I will have to find a substitute for it once we get through with what's happening with the title. One of the editors of the new Schofield Bible. Is this Minecraft? Was to ask. No, it's one of the StreamYard standard kind of standard music things. Let's see here. Just gonna try to see if I can fix this up a little. Okay, and so let's see. EJ, good evening, everyone. Sunrise Low, DTC, Death to Compromise, hello. TCon F, evening. Father Antonius, good evening, y'all. Okay, so let's get back to the original questions I saw at the beginning, and we're going to try it. I'm going to make a clip out of that because we've actually gotten this quite a bit. Woodchuck Norris apologizes for not viewing the live stream. We look forward to discussing the issue of Tritsky showing up in the life of St. Maxim of Serpukov. I can't discuss too much about it because I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't do the research that I wanted to do. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Just trying to see if I can make the resolution a little clearer. But, yeah, apparently this is about the new martyr Hilarion Troitsky. The question is whether he was an actual, Sergianist. And the more I research on it, it does seem like he was supporting Sergius. As we know, many of the folks who supported Sergius before 1943 or even at that time, met their untimely deaths at the hands of Stalin anyway, so making a compromise didn't help too much for them. But I haven't researched it enough. But yeah, there's a possibility. I mean, it's possible that I will have to ask our Russians. I know that his works were published by Jordanville, but those were later publications, so it's not looking too great. As a world Orthodox, I would find it helpful if you gave more details on famous cases of saints breaking communion. You mention them often, but I'm not familiar enough with history to know the references. You mentioned St. John Chrysostom. Could you perhaps explain the details of that case? Perhaps St. Maximus the Confessor, too. A personal friend says he chose Maximus as his patron saint because he fought from within, but I know his quote was not about with communing the heretical patriarch, but don't know the details. Even a stream dedicated to historical examples with Bishop Enoch would be awesome. We've actually done multiple streams on this, but the best example I can give you, and I would honestly recommend watching the True Orthodoxy debunked video that we did. Simply because the strongest case that is made in world Orthodoxy for the fighting from within is the case of Nestorius. The problem with that is that if you look at the history in the case of Nestorius, they didn't fight from within. People fled, clergy formed house chapels. St. Cyril was blessing the people who were doing this. That were not commemorating Nestorius, that were not celebrating with Nestorius, that were separating from Nestorius. Excuse me. And the only evidence we have that St. Cyril was supposedly fighting from within was that he was politely referring to Nestorius by his title. That's not a very strong case on the face of what was actually happening. When you have people separating from Nestorius and leaving their churches and St. Cyril blessing it, and then St. Cyril pushing for the condemnation at Rome, and then finally the Third Ecumenical Council ultimately refusing, not only deposing Nestorius, but also blessing the people who separated from him beforehand, which was the main point of later of Canon 15 of the First and Second Synod. You realize that the case that they do have is so bad, it doesn't require a counter. It actually helps our case. To just quickly run over the other two cases you mentioned, in the case of St. John Chrysostom, I highly recommend reading Father Alexander Katsopoulos' article on the schism of the Johnites. You can find that on Orthodox Traditionalists' website, Subdeacon Icterius Harrison's. If you go there, just search for that. That was actually written by a New Calendar priest, and he was arguing that St. John Chrysostom, and he goes into detail about the body that he created, effectively the counter church that would eventually reconcile later once St. John's name was restored to the diptychs. St. Maximus the Confessor, again, if you read the life, you realize that he was not only not recognizing the patriarchs, etc., except for Rome, because Rome was supporting him, and that together they were actually setting up counter bishops in Constantinople and in other places. So the idea that they were fighting from within also doesn't apply. In each of these cases, including that of the Nestorian controversy, the pattern is always the same. So that's really what it comes down to, ultimately, as heresy takes over the patriarchates. Okay, so we're going to chop that and make a clip out of it so we don't have to repeat ourselves. But in any case, I don't see too many other questions to begin with. So what I am going to do, once again, I have to remind everyone, it is our live Q&A session where you can get your questions answered live as well as member-requested video reviews just by clicking on the link at the top of the chat. It's highlighted. And let me see here. I am going to, as always, share the chat as it is on the Frosinus Cafe. And give me just a moment here. Okay, I have 3 of those open. Okay. So let's go to the general chat on the Frosinus Cafe. As I said, if you want your comment on screen, you can use that. Or let's see here. Just trying to get that there. So, well, that's colorful. Oh, I see it now. Okay. All right. So as you can see here, you may have noticed that the chat on the cafe took a different look. In the first place, right now it only uses light mode. So if you want to have your chat appear on the screen at the top of the chat, or up here, and you aren't a member, you can always join the Afrosynos Cafe. I wonder if I can make this bigger. I can, and that way. Okay, I'm going to close that because that's personal. Close those. That way, all you have to do is join in, and from there you'll be able to participate, get your comment, your question on the screen, or you can always join in, as I said, using the link at the top of the chat, or become a member or a subscriber. Yeah, so Father Simeon says, True Orthodoxy debunked. Yeah, that we do have that video, and it covers the Nestorian case in detail. So Hilarion Tritsky was a surgeonist. Preliminarily, unless I can see evidence otherwise, it's very possible because, frankly, from what I can see, he was part of the early group that supported Sergius. I'm not sure if it was when the declaration was made. I think it was. And effectively, the Josephites, the ones who formed the Catacomb Church, were separating, and Hilarion was telling everyone to stay with Sergius. If that's true, we obviously cannot commemorate him, and I don't think his memory will be as positively defined. Yeah, it is unfortunate. I agree. But in any case, let's take a look here. So, the title of our Q&A was our last Streamyard broadcast. And now I realize some people are going to be like, if you've been on the cafe and you're wondering where to find this screen, it's very simple. Go into the chat, go into general main chat, and then just have it pop out. And you'll be able to do that because it's very simple to do. As a matter of fact, I will show you how I did it. I'll just simply stop this screen, and I will share this screen. And if you look here, you can go here, and let's close that, and you'll see general main chat, and then you just go once you're in general, just go to pop out chat room, and then voila, you will be in the other chat. You'll be in the big chat. So that's how you do it. It's pretty straightforward. And if you're wondering why we made this change on the chat, it is because of the fact that this chat is actually a little more advanced than the last one that we had. As I've been mentioning, we've been talking about possibly video streaming directly from the cafe. And this is the chat system, the one that we did a collection for, that allows you to do that. So this may be the last StreamYard broadcast. If it's not this one, it will be next week's, but it's most likely going to be this one, because what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start testing video conferencing platforms that actually work within within this kind of chat. So we will be actually able to video stream from the cafe, and do a lot more from it. Also, you can create private chat rooms, so on and so forth. You can send files, emojis, GIFs. So we've actually been doing a lot with it. So this is light years ahead of the one that we originally installed. And we're going to be using that for our regular streams. But ultimately, StreamYard itself, which is the platform that we've been using for video chatting, etc., is also going to change. Let me see here. Orthodox Wasno says, do you agree with Father Seraphim's position on Father Dmitry Dudko and others who are within World Orthodoxy? Father Seraphim believed during their times they were Orthodox. I think in the case of Boris Talantov and Father Dmitry Dudko, probably, because both of them denounced the Patriarchate. Unfortunately, from what I understand, Boris Talantov, I believe, died in a Soviet prison, And Dmitry Dudko, unfortunately, I think they lobotomized him or something like that. He basically was like broken by the Soviets. So I don't know. In that case, that's a sorry case. He was still a Sergianist. However, on Talantov, I'm not sure, because Talantov, I think, maintained the faith to the end against the Sergianists. So, yeah, Dmitry Dudko, he referred to him as, I think he wrote, there was a letter called The Sad Case of Father Dmitry Dudko that St. Philaret wrote. So, yeah, I would agree with you that particular case. So, I would say yes on Boris Talantov, no on Dmitry Dudko, and you'd have to give me the other names to figure them out, because we'd have to debunk them on the fly. I thought that Hilarion Troitsky was, a perfectly good new martyr, and now I find out that in fact, no, he wasn't. So we're gonna have to keep going there, and yeah. So again, if you want to get your chat on the screen, please just join the chat here at the Afrozinos Cafe. It's very easy to do. And yeah, I see there's a couple of people joining in, and feel free to comment. And again, this is kind of where we take care of questions and answers via text. Jonathan Britt says, I think Father Seraphim just admired his perseverance under persecution. It's a shame he capitulated under the Soviets. Yeah. One funny note, I found out the Roquefort MP monastery in West Virginia claims to be true Orthodox. Really? Well, that's different. I mean, I've seen people who resented us, but people pretending to be us. Is this a way to lure in converts or entrap people? Apparently, they're doing the same. Fight from within, non-connect. Yeah, it sounds like that's exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it as a sales pitch because they're under Moscow. And so yeah, it's crazy stuff. Again, this is our live Q&A session. So if you have a question, comment, challenge, you want to challenge me on the Orthodox faith, on true Orthodoxy, by all means, let me know. And so, let's see here. And so let's see what else we're doing. So that's one of the big things that we're doing, is that we're going to be moving. Yes, it is. I can say, Rumpelstiltskin, I can actually see your chat. It's live on the screen. And so, yeah, that's going to be moving in other, more general directions that people were not expecting. We're going to be, again, still be broadcasting on YouTube and on Odyssey. Got to work more on Odyssey, but the whole point is we're going to be moving more towards working from within our own resources, etc., so that we can continue building. A lot has been happening. I think a lot of our readers and listeners and commentators are participants in true Orthodox churches throughout the U.S. We're all seeing it. More and more people are coming. They're interested in true Orthodoxy. They really want to understand. They want to understand why their hierarchs are ecumenists. They want to understand how they can escape from it. For my part, with the the YouTube channel, we get questions from literally all over the world, and we try to answer as well as we can. Sometimes we have pretty good answers. Sometimes they're not the best answers, but we're going to try to reach out to everybody so that they get that opportunity. And some situations are dire, but we have to work with what we have. And so that's kind of where I stand with that. Trying to think. I know there was a question on Gab. I know there was a question on Gab, but I can't find it right now. But so yeah, if anyone has questions, comments, or they just want to come on the show and they just want to make a comment, etc., just you can click on the link in the top of the chat. And let me see. DTC says, I think Sava is a serial floor sleeper. From what I understand, he considers it better for his health. EJ asks, how early was canon law introduced? Do you think throughout the centuries some laws have been added to benefit a corrupt bishop? Well, if you're talking about the Roman Catholics, then yes, because their kind of canonical collections were, basically made out of corrupted collections of texts and they corrupted them further. But if you're talking about the Pentalion of the Orthodox Church, that's simply canonical legislation that was ecumenically understood. The entire church understood those councils, and then they were collected in canons and commentaries were added accordingly. When we talk about canon law in the Orthodox sense, we're usually talking about how the canons apply to legal situations in the world at the time. So the canon law of the early councils would have influenced decisions, say, in the Code of Justinian or how it was applied. Likewise, canon lawyers in places like, Greece or Bulgaria apply canon law. They apply the canons to the current law of their situation. And so, let me see here. Sunrise says, I've seen new calendars claim St. Isaac the Syrian was in communion with the Nestorians. Thoughts, Father? I'm not familiar with his life. He was not. I know that the collected homilies of St. Isaac the Syrian has an introduction debunking a lot of that. New calendarists do like to claim that because anything that puts Orthodox in communion with heresy looks good to them as an argument, but they're usually not very good arguments. Mystic Matt says, I just came in the chat and read what Sava said about the Rocor Monastery in West Virginia. I live an hour away from there. Spent a lot of time over there. Just not recently, though. Haven't heard they consider themselves true Orthodox or non-commemorators. Metropolitan Nicholas was just there, so I don't see how that's possible. Okay. Yeah, that's compromise that I found. So the same also saw like a year ago. I started sleeping on the floor. Also, it works. Yeah. I saw a video about a guy who started sleeping on a Japanese bed because it was based off the floor. It's basically a floor mattress, and apparently a lot of people swear by it. So let me see here. Holy Cross Monastery on Google Maps. They listed themselves as a true Orthodox monastery. That's just like, first first people want to attack you, then people want to lie about you, then people want to misrepresent you, and then they want to pretend that they are you. So it's kind of a common sequence of events. Basil says, if you have non-Orthodox that you're over at your house for dinner, should you still say the prayers before a meal or just silently make the sign of the cross over the food? If it is your house, you should be leading the prayer, in which case they're all praying with you. There are no problems. I think that's the simplest answer. If you're at someone else's house, etc., then you can do what you're saying quietly for yourself to stay out of it. But if you're saying they're over your house, well, then you're the guy in charge and you're the Orthodox guy. So, yeah, just be in charge. All right. Saba says, I actually had a few people ask me recently if the West Virginia monastery was true Orthodox. I was wondering where they were getting this from, but then I looked at the Google Maps. Saba said, I was told it's best to excuse yourself, pray in a different room, then eat. It's his house. It's a different thing if it's someone else's house. But if it's his house, he shouldn't be running away. He's the one who should be blessing the food. It's that simple. My Google Maps just lists monastery, says Joshua Maps. Mystic Matt says, oh, so they're lying, or a friend of the monastery is. The abbot joined Rocor from HTM after he left Rocor. I can't see Father Seraphim being true Orthodox. Oh, well, have we got a surprise for you? In any case, have you watched any of Death to Compromise's videos about Father Seraphim Rose? Because I highly recommend watching all of them now. It's unfortunately it's the other way around. Now, yeah, if you went to someone's house, you could leave the room or just back off and then quietly bless the food yourself. But if it's your house, then yeah, you're blessing the food. I thought if he went to someone else's house, right? Yeah, no problem. Gustavo, good evening, Father Joseph. Do you know if there is a true Orthodox parish in New Brunswick, Canada, and if there's one in Paraguay? I'm not sure what the MB stands for. If there's anyone Canadian, I think he's talking about New Brunswick. I'm not sure. Is that Eastern Canada, West? I know there's a lot more in Eastern Canada than Western Canada, but there's still some stuff in Western Canada. I have no idea about Paraguay. Mystic Matt says, no, I meant the abbot of HTM, not Father Seraphim Rose. Father Panalayman, when he went into Hakna, he was yeah, that he joined the Synod of Archbishop Maxentius. He was considered a true Orthodox. That's putting aside the whole controversy around him. Or the Abbot of Holy Cross. Okay, now you're confusing me. Are you talking about the Rocor guy? Are you talking about Father Seraphim? Are you talking about Father Pantaleimon? Who are you talking about? Orthodox Wazda says, I looked on the Holy Cross website and why aren't you showing? There you go. And didn't see anything about them claiming to be TO. Well, I guess this is something they're saying. I have no idea. They're putting on Google Maps. And that's the compromise is, Mr. Matt. Father Seraphim was very much true Orthodox, fully aware of that. North Brunswick, Saba, I think it's New Brunswick. I could be wrong, though. Where on the website is it, Saba? That's what he's asking. Saba says, not on their website. It's just, I just looked at their Google Maps this morning. I might take a screenshot. Also says, yeah, where is it? I'm talking about Archimandrite Seraphim Vopel, Abbot of Holy Cross Monastery in Wayne, West Virginia. I think we've all established that we are talking about the same monastery. What we haven't established is where they're calling themselves true Orthodox, etc. So, yeah, but if that's the case, that's not a good thing. I mean, it's good if they truly believe it, then they just have to find a true bishop. But if they're just saying that because they want to, pretend to be us, then that's going to be a problem. And as always, as I mentioned, today is our live Q&A session, so feel free to call in using the link at the top of the chat, comment or ask questions in the chat. And so, once again, if you want to join in, those are two different ways that you can do it. And so I am keeping that chat open so that it is nice and fresh on the screen. And so let me see here. And we're going to see, okay, there's two new comments. And let's see. I'll send it to you over Telegram, Fedor. That's Compromise said, I think Father Joseph's incense is better than the West Virginia monastery. One Sunday I burned Father Joseph's, then the West Virginia stuff, which made me feel not great afterwards. Wow. Well, thank you. I will be putting up the how to purchase on my incense soon, and I'm sorry about that. It's just that when I started, I immediately got a few bulk orders, which I was really grateful for. I'm going to start selling the smaller packages soon. So it says, I'll post it in the TOH. I'm not sure what that is. And then Egypt says, Russia's Putin a devout Christian, or that he has weaponized religion to advance his personal agendas. That would be B. Sunrise said he kissed the Quran. Yep. Mm-hmm. And Orthodox Wazda says, oh, I see. Okay, I see. All right. So once again, feel free to call in using the link at the top of the chat, comment, or ask questions in the chat. As we go, we are in the halfway point of the first hour. Someone said True Orthodox Monastery in a Google review, and it comes up when you click on it in Google Maps. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds correct, Mystic Matt. TG says, ain't the MP saying the people going to fight in the Ukraine war will gain the crown of martyrdom? They argue it was a little more nuanced than that, but basically, yes, that's kind of what they're saying. So yeah. Let me see here. Gustavo says, I'll just have to move to either Montreal or Edmonton then. Tough luck. Well, Gustavo, if you're asking me as, kind of a phone directory, then I would say that I am woefully incomplete. What my recommendation would be to reach out to True Orthodox parishes in Montreal or Edmonton, and they might know other people, because I'm not Canadian. I'm in the U.S., and frankly, a lot of my information is out of date. Before assuming that you're going to have to move, unless you want to move, in which case you can, make some phone calls. Just give it a try. Saba says, okay, I see. I thought there was him claiming that. I'm tech illiterate. Wasta says, I see. You can see that. It comes up when you click on it on the maps. Yeah, the person who called them True Orthodox probably meant authentically Orthodox, not true, genuine. I feel like that's kind of, they know. It's tricky, because then you have, like, really hardcore ecumenists who are like true Orthodoxy is the Orthodoxy of loving everybody. And you know that they know, but they're kind of doing it. And yes, we do have a parish in Edmonton, but he's looking for a parish in North Brunswick or New Brunswick, Father Simeon. But yeah, we do have a parish in Edmonton. He just was, I think that's still far for him. Holy Cross ceased commemoration of Patriarch Kirill, they'd be disciplined by the ROCOR MP Synod. Yes, they would. So they are not true Orthodox, they're MP. If you haven't yet, I'd like to invite you into the chat in the cafe because your comments will appear live in the general chat, and you can create your own chats that will not appear on the screen because they're not the general chat. But in any case, give it a try if you haven't already. It's a lot of fun. As I mentioned earlier, this week I'm going to be trying a few different communications protocols that work with this chat. And I'm going to be looking at how we're going to be hosting the broadcast. They will still be broadcasting to YouTube, but we won't be clicking a Streamyard link. We'll be clicking a different link, and maybe our screen will look a little different and funkier. We still don't know, but we'll see. And so let's see what happens with it. In any case, again, this is our live Q&A session. So let's get started. If you want to jump on stream or ask a question or make a comment, click the link to the top of the chat. If you want to share a video to review, we can do that. Another piece of news, I'm in what I think are the last, I think they're the last kind of moments we're working on where we have a venue, and I may be debating William Albrecht on the papacy, maybe in November. It's kind of looking like it, and hopefully I should have those details for you hopefully by next week or the week after. We will be debating the papacy. As soon as we get the final okays, then we'll find out. Joshua Max says, what do you think will heal the break between the Romanians and the GOCs? I assume you're talking about the true Orthodox Romanians, right? Are you talking about the, because if you're talking about the new calendar Romanians, there's just going to be like a whole lot. Remember that GOC generally stands for Genuine Orthodox Church. So I would assume the Romanians consider themselves the Genuine Orthodox Church of Romania, as opposed, to the Genuine Orthodox Church of Greece. So I wouldn't start referring, I consider people ask this to me too, when I consider myself part of the Genuine Orthodox Church as well. So yeah, exactly. When you get that specific, it helps. Only because of the fact that I think the Romanians, I don't know what their justification is at this point. Sladiwara and the GOCK. Ultimately, I don't think there's too much. They broke over some issues that caused some internal turmoil in the Romanian GOC. So I would say that it may be temporary. It most likely will be temporary. There's none of these things can be permanent sustainably. Eventually, the church has to restore itself unto order, and I think that's what we've been doing and seeing happen over the past 25 years. So there was a bit of a hiccup, I would say, with what happened, but I think that they still have friendly relations. Neither side has adopted any heresies, so I'm assuming that for the most part, it should still be it's not too bad. It's more of an informal break. Yeah, I know that Savas Slatuar had an issue with the GOCK and COVIDism and wanted a stricter condemnation of Cyprianism, which isn't going to happen because that would imply that Cyprianism still exists to the GOCK, which they don't consider that it does. They also don't want to be in communion with Agafangal. I think that's becoming a trend. And so, the COVID thing, I think, shook out a lot of things. I know that our synod and communion of churches were very against COVID, but it's going to be a very different. This is what we call the era of palace intrigue, and I think what you'll find, especially for the younger listeners and those newer to true Orthodoxy, what you'll find is that a lot of the people that are my age and older don't really want to deal with it. Because for us, we never really had parish intrigue. We were basically marginalized and attacked and mocked as schismatics, etc. We sounded, I would say the True Orthodox sounded almost as apocalyptic as the people on Father Peter Hears' side 30 years ago. And so the problem is that 30 years later, when people are trying to reestablish communion, not everything's going to work perfectly. That's just a given. That doesn't mean I don't, like if I'm sure that both, Sladior and the GOCK recognize that those are Orthodox on the other side of the divide, and they're not looking to take each other's properties over the way it would have been like 30 years ago, back when everyone thought it was a free-for-all. We live in a different time. And so, but I think if you can confront, say, older people about this, a lot of them are just going to be like, I just deal with my church. I don't want to deal with any of it, because they don't want to hear it. And to them, it sounds like gossip. We're talking about the Romanians now, and we're talking about the Bulgarians and the Russians, and Uncle Fungal did this, and Uncle Fungal did that. And I'm sure we could come up with a long list for him. But the point is that to them, it would sound like gossip. They had learned, after dealing with so much side talk from the Ecumenists, from the New Calendarists, so on and so forth, they don't want to deal with it. And even though you're talking about fellow True Orthodox Christians, there's no joy in it. They've already dealt with a lot of hostility, and so they don't see every new break in communion as something to freak out about. They just see it as something that shouldn't have paid attention to all those other people in the first place. So I just want to give you that kind of warning, because that's one thing that people, I think, especially newer people coming in, don't fully understand, is that the older generation was traumatized by the events that occurred, like heavily traumatized. They didn't have the pleasant experience of, my bishop's an ecumenist, well, I'll just go to this church here. Usually, some people today in the more recent days have experienced literally being chased out of churches and stuff like that, but not many. Major Saga author says very informative. Indeed. So, this is something that what we're going to see is over time, things are, things will continue to develop. But yeah, we're in the era of palace intrigue. Now the True Orthodox world is meeting the rest of the True Orthodox world, and they're dealing with it accordingly. And it's not always working out as it was never a pleasant period, whenever coming out of a period of heresy. I invite, again, everyone to just read the Acts of the Seventh Ecumenical Council to see how messy reunions can really be and how long they can take. So unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with now. So that's why it's, I will say that for I'd say 90% of True Orthodox, if this is a concern for you because you're like, but I want to vacation in Bulgaria next year, you'll probably find a church where you can commune, etc., so on and so forth. Ascender asked, does the 2007 St. John of Kronstadt press catalog still serve well as a safe reading list except for some newer titles? I cannot answer that question, as I have never seen the 2007 St. John of Kronstadt press catalog, and so probably, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I definitely, it's hard enough to answer the question of, parish locations around the world. But yeah, once you're throwing 20-year-old catalogs at me and asking if that's okay, yeah, I got to draw the line somewhere. I would say Google it. If you find something questionable, write on the cafe, or ask us, about a specific title, but I can't answer something like that. Joshua Mack asks, where can we find these acts? That's a great question. Even though it's not a member question, so I can't put it up. Those acts can actually be found one of two ways. The most recent way, and in the most modern English, and in the most sympathetic format, is the Richard Price edition of the Acts of the Seventh Ecumenical Council, which is available, and it's kind of expensive. The other way is exactly the opposite. It is in older English. It is edited by Protestants who hated icons in the Seventh Ecumenical Council and wrote copious angry footnotes, but it is free on Google Books. So if you ignore the angry Protestant seething in the footnotes, it's actually a very good translation. Jonathan Britt says the sender looks like a great list of books. I'm gonna guess it probably was. They still printed things like the appearance of the cross over Athens in 1925 and the calendar question until recently, or well until about 10 years ago. Well, did SJK Press go MP or GOC? I'm not sure. Salva says SJKP stayed with the Rocor, sadly. That surprises me and depresses me. Sender said, last one before I get back to work over there. Does anyone, World Orthodox, actually believe they're absurd apologetic that there is nothing substantial about ecumenism to condemn? Welcome, Father Boniface. Yeah, I would say yeah. I would say that some of them actually are, a lot of them will say it's a non-issue. Benedicite.
Benedicite. I'm getting echoes. I'm going to try something else.
Okay. All right, you sounded pretty clear to me, but okay. And so a lot of them, that is still their excuse. What they really mean is we don't believe ecumenism is a heresy. And that needs to be addressed directly. Solomon says that, but the man who founded the St. Peter Parish went to Roca A in 2005. Yes, he did, and he passed on, and his legacy is one that is rather mixed. They are still GOCK. Wait, we got someone coming in. Let me see here. And it is Wazna. Greetings, Wazna. God bless you. How are you doing?
Good evening, Father. I had a question.
Sure.
So I actually asked Reader Sava this question earlier today at lunch, and then I asked Father Mark this question. I'm currently reading the Life of St. John of Kronstadt, put out by HTM. Really good so far. There's a whole section in the book about the Divine Liturgy, and it was going through basically all the experiences Father John had during the Divine Liturgy.
Okay.
And my question, I guess, to you is, and I think Reader Sava answered it a little bit, but there was still a lot of, I would say, mystery to the answer. When Father John was experiencing those real things during the Divine Liturgy, as if he was part of the life of Christ, basically. In the section, there was a section where I was talking about how, I forget what part of the liturgy he was doing, but it was as if he was in the Garden of Gethsemane itself. When it's talking about that, and when the saints talk about, in the lives of the saints, where the saints are experiencing things during the Divine Liturgy, are they entering into what already happened in history? Does that make sense? Making sense?
I would say that they're being brought back to it. It actually does make sense because even the nature of the Eucharist as described in the scriptures, they use the Greek word anamnesis, which is a calling back. So in that sense, what we're doing when we do the Divine Liturgy is joining ourselves to the original liturgy. So experiences like that, if you've reached that level of spiritual, what's the word I'm looking for? Spiritual purity. I would say that's possible. I can't confirm it because
so they're able to see those things with their spiritual eyes because their nous has been cleansed. Basically, they're at a state of theosis, essentially.
Yeah.
So they're able to perceive those things that are actually happening.
Correct.
Makes sense. Cool. And then one other question too. It has more so I was trying to think earlier. I think it was I can't remember how long ago. It must have been a few months ago. I don't know how long ago, but it was a homily that Father Mark was giving, and he mentioned how Elder Nectari passed down the deposit of the faith to St. Andre of Rockland. And then St. Andre of Rockland obviously had spiritual children, and he passed on the faith to them. Is that really part of how the Orthodox faith works? essentially. I don't know if that makes sense. That there's
It
something.
does. It does. And it can be. Usually, when you're talking about charismatic gifts like that, I would say that they seem to be much more finite in that they pass down to a certain level of disciples at where it's been captured in texts and books, etc., for the edification of the people, and then vanish. But in other cases, like where brotherhoods were formed and lasted, 200-300 years, those are much more organized and they're less mystical than you would find with, say, like the Optina elders, etc.
A brotherhood meaning like skeets and monasteries.
No, brotherhoods were actually, and brotherhoods are still being formed today. They can be formed at the parish level, at a monastery level, but what they are is they are essentially organizations of Orthodox men united in prayer for a common goal, whether it's for publishing, whether it's for physical defense, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing that was still going on today. Because I know, So is that like a common thing in like true Orthodox churches to form brotherhoods and things like that?
No, but it's not a common thing anywhere, but it does happen.
And so the purpose, what? So in Russia, do they form brotherhoods too?
Yes, and like, sisterhoods. Sisterhoods are common as well.
Would that have been something more prominent, like especially like right before the Bolshevik Revolution and during?
It would have been, yeah. Brotherhoods and sisterhoods existed for hundreds of years.
Interesting. Okay, those were my questions. I appreciate the answers.
Not a problem. And don't forget, everyone, Orthodox Wazda is on YouTube. Just look, Google Orthodox, just YouTube Orthodox Wazda, and don't forget to like and follow him.
All right, appreciate it. Good night.
God bless.
Father's blessed, by the way.
God bless you in the name of the Father.
God bless.
All right. So again, anyone can call in just by using the link at the top of the chat. Let's go through some more of the comments as we continue. There's still JOCK, but they eventually leave since Father Gregory Williams reposed. Yeah, that's possible. Sunrise, the stream you guys did on the Antiochian Western Rite seems to be getting a ton of views. Hopefully people are seeing the World Orthodox seeing that, and that was all he wrote on that one. In the cafe chat, we do see Rumpelstiltskin writes, I wonder if Jay Dyer has ever addressed Kirill's 2016 Havana agreement with Pope Francis. As I don't watch Jay Dyer, occasionally I'll click because I'll see it in my list of stuff to see if it's actually open. But yeah, I don't think he would. I think that, or he'd try to probably play it down as a political thing. But unfortunately, that's going to be the standard boilerplate reaction. Ecumenism's not real. Ecumenism's okay. Ecumenism's okay when we do it. Sava says, well, that Orthodox cloud guy recently claimed that. Okay, these are breaking up. Okay. And the sender says, as if it's getting better rather than always downhill. Abbot Tryphon, hand wave St. Philaret's stance is irrelevant and a product of its era. Abbot Tryphon is a smarmy ecumenist who oftentimes says that, the Orthodox and the Roman Catholic Church are the same. If you watch his videos, he's done this repeatedly, and there's other video evidence. I highly recommend Orthodox traditionalist videos that he's clipped out of Abbot Tryphon saying things like that. I just have very little respect for him. The worst part is how many World Orthodox think he's like some sort of elder or something, and he's not. Gene writes, Streamyard is over. Yeah, well, it very well might be very soon for us, but we'll still be around. We're just not going to be on StreamYard. Sunrise sends their comments on Orthodox Kyle's video calling out for not calling out the MP's ecumenism. Yeah, well, not surprising, but that's good that more people are calling it out. Saba says, yes, JKP is World Core MP. Yeah, we read that. EJ says, when will you and Gene do a collab? I was wondering if he is World Orthodox or True Orthodox. I find his videos informative. I'm not exactly sure where Gene goes to church. If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know him too well. I've occasionally commented back and forth. I don't think we've ever shared a screen. He's I know he's like in the Chicago area. So like my initial thing, because I'm racist, I guess, I was like, maybe he's an Antiochian. But like technically there's a lot of Greek churches there. There's a lot of true Orthodox Greek churches there. There's Russian churches, Serbian churches. the assumption that I would be making would be out of being racist. It would just be like, oh well, he's Lebanese of some kind, so he's an Antiochian, and he may not be. I have no idea. I never asked him. I don't think I've ever asked him. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, his videos are informative, and he's a very smart guy. I want to get his book. Sava calls, yes, it's called The Golden Chain by St. Simeon the Theologian. I found that the S-Talk recognizes Cluster Picanic as a martyr. Yeah, I'm not, unless you can confirm it with an icon or an article, I gotta stick with what we know. Father Simeon says, many American parishes were started by such brotherhoods. Indeed. EJ already subscribed. Let me see. So it's good to see Feodor on the show. Jonathan Britt says, Dr. Wasna spotted. Father John Whiteford said, I read St. Hilarion Tritsky's Christianity in the Church, published in Jordanville in 1990 and 1991. I love that text. I happen to think it's a fantastic text. Wasna says he thinks the RCs now have a valid Eucharist. Yeah, he did. Oh, he said a lot more than that. Father John says St. Hilarion is on the icon of the new martyrs and confessors of Russia in Jordanville. But was he on the original one? Because one thing that I have learned is that St. Hilarion Tritsky's glorification did not occur in 2000. Did not occur in the. It didn't occur in the 1982 glorification or 1981 glorification. He was glorified in 1999, I believe. So I am curious about that. Or was it 89? But the point is, and it was by the MP, not by the ROCOR. Orthodox wasn't it? Yeah, we read that. Father John White for the same icon also had Pavel Florensky. They had some weird things there. Okay, I think you're talking about the new icon of the new martyrs and confessors. I think that's who you guys are talking about. I'm not terribly familiar with that one. I like the old one that has my namesake on it. Maybe the new one has it too. I haven't studied the new icon that well. I'm going to be honest. I haven't studied that icon well. I don't know if there are parishes in North Brunswick, and I don't know the 2007 St. John of Kronstadt catalog. Father Boniface, how is everything going?
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week this week because I have been, I critiqued the Amendment 4 in Florida, which is the pro-abortion amendment, which 4 justices, caved in on. And so I got a hold of some pro-life organizations, and I will be on a Zoom conference with Polk County for Life tomorrow. And then I have been invited to work a table at a Students for Life meeting at Southeastern College, Southeastern University, I think it is now. They're 1 block from my new house. It was formerly it's a Southeastern Assembly of God school, but now that it's a university, they're a lot more open now to everything else. And so
they have to be secularized for all that NCAA funding.
So and then there's a pro-life banquet for the local pregnancy center this Thursday. So I got my plate full. So I really want to ask for prayer that the Lord would use these opportunities for me to be a witness for Orthodoxy. And as we fight this just horrendous situation here in Florida with Amendment 4. And so I just ask for prayers also for my physical condition. And basically, and I've just been busy working on the house, fixing it up, painting it, and things like that. So, so it's been keeping me pretty busy.
Glory to God. And it's amazing to see the work you're doing in Florida, especially considering how shocked I think a lot of conservative Floridians would be with what's happening with the pro-life movement being basically undermined, in a place that a lot of people consider like a conservative, safe haven.
The problem is that if this thing passes, they need a 60% voting majority to pass it. Other states have had a 51%, and there are a lot of other states that have passed this amendment. And the problem is that these evil NGOs know that these public referendum amendment type things are workable for them, because they'll get the petitions, they'll go out and they'll hire people to get signatures, and then they will have their multimedia campaign to barrage people. So they'll spend millions of dollars at this kind of a thing. The potential would be to open up Florida to be the biggest abortion mecca in the world, because
That's actually terrifying.
It is. And so, you know, what it does is, you know, these people say that you can have abortion in case of rape, incest, or human trafficking. That is horrendous, because you're still taking a human life, and you're also damaging the mother, and you're also letting these criminals who raped the person, or who had incest, or who's a sex trafficker, get away with their crime. And so this logic is ridiculous. And then Florida also has got this Amendment 3 where they want to legalize marijuana. And I was on a video chat where they had Governor DeSantis on. And he gave a speech, a presentation, and he said that Amendment 3 is highly funded by the drug cartels, who have a monopoly on the drug business and the marijuana business here in Florida. And so you're going to see, if these amendments pass, even if the Amendment 3 passes, you know, we're going to be a drugged down state, you know, in a smoke of confusion. And then if the abortion thing passes, and by the way, this issue is hot in many states. And so people, it isn't just in Florida, it is in many states. And so what they do is they have terms that are very nebulous, very ambiguous, like viability, healthcare worker, and the health of the mother. These three words are very ambiguous, and they're especially done that way because healthcare worker can mean anyone from a doctor to a healthcare worker, a nurse's assistant, or anything like that. Even even legislature said even a tattoo artist. So it's going to explode if this thing passes. And so the tragic thing is that at least one of the four justices who passed this, who refused to judge on this issue, is a, quote, evangelical Christian who goes to a church that I formerly went to. That church kicked me out. Well, speaking about being kicked out of churches. So glory to God, he led me here. So that's what we're saying. We're saying that evangelicals are, what they did was, I think maybe I said this before, but in a nutshell, in the spirit of Pontius Pilate, 4 justices of the Florida Supreme Court, with the unborn at the bar, washed their hands and tossed the decision into the hands of the people. And that's basically a synopsis of the whole thing, because they say in their ruling that they refuse to judge on the merits and wisdom of the amendment. And I looked at that and I said, you got to be kidding me. You do not want to address what this amendment is proposing on a philosophical, legal, moral grounds at all, and without addressing any of the repercussions, any of the applications, anything, the consequences that are going to take place. You didn't want to do it. So then in the middle of their statement, in the middle of around pages 29 and 32 out of the 81-page document, they say the people are equipped, that the people have the ability to discern these terms in this amendment, which is basically absurd. And so they, being the experts at law, refused to make a judgment and threw it into the hands of the people. And they say, yeah, you're all able to discern it. And that's absolutely false. And so really this is another chapter in the demise of democracy, another step down, eventually that will go into anarchy and tyranny, which is what you were all, when you and Vladika Enoch were addressing with the immigration issue, with the great disruption in society. And then this is just another thing to continue. And, you know, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapters, 29 and 30, or 20 and 29, it talks about the curses of a land. And when the land is full of murder, the Lord brings in foreign peoples as a judgment. And so you really see that we have a depleted population, and that the immigrants are coming in to fill in the vacancies. And so these are judgments of the Lord, and the nation needs to repent and fall down in sackcloth and ashes and tears. And you know, and let me make one more point here too. It's this: Governor DeSantis said that if this thing passes, this amendment is going to be for good. In other words, it is extremely hard, if not impossible, to override this amendment. You would have to get another amendment forwarded to the Supreme Court to have it be approved, put it on the ballot, and then get 60% of the people to override the previous amendment. It's going to be basically impossible. And the thing that I was thinking was this, is that, you know, Governor DeSantis, your job is to defend life. And this should have happened decades ago with any governor or any actually government official, where they said, this is murder and we're not going to put up with it. And I don't care what the Supreme Court says. I'm the executive. I have the sheriff behind me. And if anyone does this, they will be arrested and put on trial. So leave town. This is to stop immediately. And this is what our leaders should be doing. But what happens is that now, if, like they say, well, if this thing passes, then this is all going to happen. Well, in effect, since the governor is not doing his job, the people become terrorized. The people, the general population, becomes the victim, besides the child, the unborn, but the rest of the society becomes a victim because the government is not fulfilling its God-ordained duty to protect life. And so the people suffer judgments. And that's what we're looking at. Okay. It's a real tragedy.
All right. Well, Rumpelstiltskin says that's awesome, Father Boniface, in terms of the work that you're doing. We've got a bunch of questions and comments that have popped up. Just to get started, Rollin1334 says, is it possible, not a member, but I will ask the question, is it possible that the RC have a valid communion that is different than the Orthodox chalice? No. Sava says they did remove, Florensky stuff, the Florensky on the new martyrs icon, I'm skipping all of it. Sava says, no, I read the Confession of Dositheus, and it explicitly says Orthodox have the Eucharist. That's correct. Florensky. Father John talking about Florensky. I am skipping. I do not know the icon. I don't know where Florensky is in it, if he's there. So let's continue there. Sava says it was removed, but that was controversy. Don't know anything about it, so I'd feel stupid talking about it. Rollin says, why pro-life if the church doesn't even care of the homeless kids on the street or at the border? The church does care about situations like homeless kids on the streets. Churches, first off, you have to be specific. I mean, you're talking about the church generally, or are you talking about the Orthodox Church? Are you talking about, if you're talking about the Orthodox Church, I mean, many churches have soup kitchens, have resources that they use. Kids on the border shouldn't be on the border. They're being brought in through trafficking organizations. I think that's a ridiculous question. Sava talks about changing the icon. Reader John asks, what did the dear father have for dinner tonight?
I had my pancake of, what is it? And then with my hamburger and green peppers and onions and olive oil. And I had a soda with some lime jalapeno flavored organic drink that I put a little bit into my soda. So that's what I had tonight.
Sounds good. All right, let's continue. Salva says some people were suspicious of Sheriff from Chichikov. Father John Whiteford says the Icon of the New Martyrs. Jordanville has not changed multiple times. I've had a copy that hasn't changed since the early 90s. Rollins says, what about the pharmaceuticals, Father, or alcohol? That's not an issue, huh? I mean, no. The pharmaceutical industry is a problem in and of itself. It's not specifically a church problem. Alcohol is something we've dealt with, but the pharmaceutical industry lying and profiting off of people who thought they were there to heal them, that's a legal issue. Jonathan Britt says, smoking marijuana increases psychotic tendencies in the brain. It is destructive, and I pray Florida does not fall into this filthy legislation. Agreed. Rollins says, what about the guns that killed? Why not go after that, Father? And then Rollins says, this priest sounds like a Protestant in disguise. He's formerly Protestant, but he's been Orthodox for quite a while, and a lot of people like his statements, and I think that just because, the fact that people want to go out and engage the community doesn't make them Protestant. Rumpelstiltskin writes in the Frosenos Cafe chat, even Father Sarah from Rose wrote his letters about the possible need in the future to break even from ROCOR. Very true. Salva says, I'll grant that Jordanville doesn't change their icons that much. Okay. I think that resolves the Florensky icon controversy. Jonathan Britt says, come on the live stream and say that, boy. And Orthodox Wazno says, close the door, boy. Ezekiel, I have no idea what the boy thing is. It sounds like Muhammad hijab type stuff. Maybe there's a joke there. Guns don't kill people. That is correct. People kill people. Well, I mean, if they do, then cars kill people too. I think yes. And spoons make people fat. Ice cream makes people fat. EJ, alcohol. You drink one or two, you stay functional. Unless you're an alcoholic, you lack self-control. Weed, I don't say. Weed, I don't say. Take one hit to stay coherent. Yeah, I'm not a weed guy. Rumpelstiltskin says, seethe. Orthodox Wasno says the reason abortion isn't criminalized is because babies are seen as less than human by the population. That is correct. And what letter does Father Seraphim talk about breaking from ROCOR? Debt to Compromise says, let me look. And so you can find it if you look it up. Yeah, I would go with the searchable edition that they have of his letters. But in any case, other than that, let me see if there's any more coming up. DTT says, LOL, true. And so I'm going to check real quick on the new mentions and Gab. See if I have any questions. I don't see any. So we are now at the 8th minute of the second hour. And we're probably, looks like most of it is kind of crosstalk in the chats, which is fine. He questioned the decisions of the ROCOR, was very distrustful of the Synod. Orthodox was asking Father Boniface, tell us about his time in Operation Rescue.
Well, I can, if you want me to, I can talk about it.
Yeah, a couple of minutes about your background and that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. I got wind of it. I forget how, but somebody called me on the phone, and I got wind of that there was going to be a rescue at an abortion clinic in Philadelphia. And it was largely spearheaded by the Roman Catholic Church in Philly. But there were also evangelicals that heard of it and went in. And so there was a meeting time, and we went into the clinic when it was early opened, and we occupied the place and sat down and stopped the business of the clinic for the day. But the point was to take it to the courts to see if we could get some wins in the courts and get some ground to fight it through the judicial system. And basically, we used what was called the justification defense, that you are allowed to break a lower law in order to uphold a higher law. So, for instance, if there's a house on fire and they have a no trespassing sign at the gate, but you've got a kid screaming help at the second floor, you're going to run into the house, you're going to break the trespassing law to go in to save the person's life. And so, therefore, if you can prove to the court that they were killing babies or they were planning to kill babies that day, and that you would be justified in storming the place and closing the business down for the day. Well, that defense was we tried to bring that case, and Judge Lipschitz of Philadelphia denied the hearing of that plea. He denied it, just flat out denied it.
Wow.
And you see, and I'll say this, is that there was maybe 20 years later, there's a rescue at an abortion clinic in Texas where their aborted babies were found to be in their dumpster. And this hit the news big time. And so the pro-lifers had a protest and went in and sat in the clinic. And when they came to the court, they were going to say the justification defense. And the judge said, I will hear it. At that point, the abortionists dropped their charges. The reason being that they knew that that case could create precedent and bust the whole abortion industry big time. And so they quit. They dropped their charges. So you see, the point is that it's an effective defense because it's true and it's right. But we were defeated. And so I went through another sit-in, 2 of them, and then they slapped the RICO case, the RICO suit against us. And so the Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organization Act, and I was a member of that suit. And so it took 15 years for that suit to get overturned in the Supreme Court. And so therefore... So that's just a little bit of the experience in Operation Rescue. You have people taking the stand, and one person was trying to accuse somebody of something, and it was me, and they couldn't make identification. The Lord, it was funny because let me say something. The Lord is interesting in court because what happens is that you have to prove that lives are being taken there. And so they had the security guard take the stand. And so they ask him this line of questions. Do you work at this clinic? Yeah, yes, I do. Were you there that morning? Yes, I was. And they said, are you there the day that they perform abortions? And yes, I was. And so therefore, when he said that, were you there the day before, the day that they were going to perform abortions? He says, yes, I was. That nailed it right there. They proved that they were performing abortions. And then they had another time where they were, I'm just trying to remember, this is like, many years ago, where the pro-lifers were assumed to go into the operating rooms and bust the equipment. And so they asked one of the pro-lifers on the stand, now, what were you saying, and what was the clinic personnel saying? And the clinic personnel were saying that people, that they were busting equipment or something, or don't bust the equipment to themselves or something. And it was like they just hung themselves by what they said themselves. That they weren't breaking, that they were the ones that were prone to break the equipment, not the pro-lifers. It's just really ironic how these things happen in court. How the Lord defended us in unique ways. Now, but now you've got cases where, Kamala Harris, when she was Attorney General in California, went after David Daleiden, the one who took the videos of those the abortionists. Yeah, so he's still in jeopardy after many years. He's still in jeopardy, and the Thomas More Society is defending him, who also defended the RICO case, of which I was a part of. So much thanks to them. But anyway, this stuff is ongoing, but the lies and the deception are just incredible. And the fact that the courts have Planned Parenthood favorable justices sitting in the chairs who should recuse themselves, but they don't, and everything just moves forward to oppress the defenders of life and to kill the unborn. So America's in a serious situation. In so many ways, it's just a flood. And so, Lord have mercy, because that's all I can say. It's
understood. Sabbath says that Father Seraphim knew some people were bad actors. He wanted Platinum to be independent, so it couldn't be dragged into anything. That's true. Christ is risen. I just listened to Archimandrite Panteleimon Apostasy and Antichrist. It's pretty good. That's Archimandrite Panteleimon Rudick of Jordanville. Also, Singlarian Trubisky, Scripture in the Church. We've actually been having a lot of discussion about him earlier. If you rewind back to the beginning, Orthodox Wasna says, check out Ray of Light if you liked that small booklet. Jonathan Britt says, I listened to Father Seraphim's talk, Orthodoxy in the USA, a lecture he gave at Jordanville on the way to church today. It was very insightful. TG says, Lord have mercy. Father Boniface, do you support the abolitionist movement today, even though they're made up of mostly Protestants? Do you think Orthodox Christians can be abolitionists?
That abolitionist word is a red flag, because the abolitionist movement during the war between the states, that time was a really mixed bag of Unitarianism, humanism, and granted that slavery was wrong, and so that has a lot of issues surrounding it. However, they're saying, I think, and I've read a little bit of their literature, abolish abortion. Okay, so yeah, abolish abortion. It should be abolished completely. No question about that. So if you want to take that definition that way, that's acceptable. But the problem is the word itself carries a lot of extra baggage, which I don't think is very proper. But Protestants are rising up against the murder of the unborn. The Catholics have, and the Orthodox should also. See, this is murder. This isn't a political issue. This is a murder issue, a moral issue, and all should be held accountable before the bar of God. And so, therefore, you have to realize that when I made my decision to sacrifice myself and go through the penalties which I would endure for going in this clinic, you got to realize that this is a small sacrifice compared to a child's life being taken. If you have to pay fines, do civil service, if you get roughed up by the cops a little bit, you go a little bit hungry, you stay a night, 24 plus hours in jail, and then you get out and you got to go through the rigmarole. Again, look at the price that they're paying. And so consider these things, that we are called to defend life, right? Greater love has no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. Well, these children are our friends, and we love them, and God knows that the horrendous character of the victims, not only the children, but the mothers and the fathers. I've talked to many a man who didn't want his girl to get the abortion, in front of the clinic, and they go in and try and persuade her. We've been through that a few times. I've worked with teams where we've saved some lives, praise God, and so we've had the opportunity to do that. But the clinic in Lakeland has walls now that are really high, and so it's really a wrapped up issue. But they have a pro-life center right next door to it now. If they can stop, people from going in next door, they can, whatever. It works a little bit, but you got to realize that we're called to sacrifice, and because if they can come against the unborn, they will go against the elderly, and they will go against the handicapped, and they will go against hated minorities, which is the Christian church. So you're defending life, not only theirs, but yours in the long run also.
And Bishop Enoch, traditionalist Orthodoxy, writes, over 50 million murdered children for decades. As the scripture says, the land is befouled with the blood of murder. Sava corrected me on the correct last name, which was Nijic. Father Panteleimon Rudick was a bishop. Apologies for that one. Orthodox was saying, talking about abolitionism regarding abortion. Father Boniface, do you go to abortion clinics these days to conduct ministry?
I have in the past, but like I just said, the clinic here in Lakeland has built a wall, a fence, and it so effectively keeps out any communication that it's very difficult. And so I've had to, due to health reasons, stay out of the sun. But I have been in front of clinics in Philadelphia, Paoli, in Tampa, just for one time, and in Lakeland, and I've done it. So, and it's to say, I tell you what, I'll give you a story here in the Northeastern Women's Center in Philly on Roosevelt Boulevard. One time they have a wheelchair ramp going up to it, and the abortion clinic personnel came out and they started doing an incantation. And so the women were doing this sign, you know.
Oh my.
And you see, that's a Kabbalah sign.
Yeah.
And so therefore I said, this is a occultic ritual that they're doing. And I actually was at in the city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, visiting a person who's had an office next to a synagogue. And the synagogue...
Bishop Enoch has joined the chat. Benedicite.
Benedicite. The synagogue had a glass window into its foyer, and they have a picture of a rabbi doing this.
Wow.
So I said, and then so it's an occultic symbol, and so I do believe it's like a female symbol, and so therefore female power, but it's wrapped up in occultism. You know, the abortion is a satanic, bloody sacrifice, sacrifice to demons, and so therefore you're looking at a spiritual battle now, and it's really more and more coming to the fore because, you know, Satanism is so prevalent now and so outspoken, and so people are now creating religions to say that abortion is a ritual sacrifice, therefore it's part of their faith, and they should have liberty to perform their faith. And so,
yeah. And as EJ points out, evil prevails when good God's people do nothing. And don't do that sign too much, Father. They'll say you're Illuminati. Let me see here. Cole and Sava are greeting each other. So yeah, no, I agree. It is a problem. Vladika Enoch, can you hear us? No, he's just there, but I don't know. I think he may have an issue with his microphone or something. Sava says, I was talking about the Illuminati the other day. There were multiple groups that tried to compete with the Freemasons, calling themselves the Illuminated Ones. Yes, there were. There were a number of them. I think the main one was a Bavarian group that was made by somebody who was kicked out of the Freemason Lodge. I'm not sure. I thought Weishaupt group was the main one. The Bavarian Lodge. But let me see. So by using abortion legally as a sacrifice, quote unquote, they're openly admitting they know how they're murdering human beings.
Interesting.
And what else is disgusting. So how's it going, Wadika? How are you doing?
I just am feeling a little sick. I took some Zyrtec, so but what are we discussing? I heard the discussion, the pro-life discussion, but are we talking about any other matters or?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through a few of them already. Basically, we're going to be moving into a different kind of broadcasting either this coming week or next week. So, there will probably be more live videos about that. We talked about the live debate, answered questions, a variety, different types of questions. And finally, we're talking about the pro-life thing. I did mention that I do have a pending debate November. Sava says, Lord have mercy. I will deliver that book to you, Vladika, next week. I'm very excited to see you and Vladika John again.
All right. We'll see you next week, Sava.
Okay, sounds good. And let me think here.
I did get a new book in the mail, the translation of the exegetical letters of St. Jerome. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because most of them haven't been translated. Back in the old Shaft series, what they did is they translated most of St. Jerome's letters, but they're like 20 they didn't because they're very long texts that are almost Bible commentaries into them themselves. So
Oh, wow.
they're only recently translated in the past 5 or 6 years, I think.
Well, that's
So.
pretty awesome. Orthodox Waza asks, where is the debate going to be, Father Joseph? Because of the fact that it is, as I mentioned, most likely William Albrecht, I don't want to say where until I have an absolute affirmative, yes, this debate is happening. Until I get that, there's still that part of me that is saying it is not happening yet. I will say it's a neutral venue. They're not Catholic or Orthodox. And all I know is that right now we're almost done working out the debate issues. The last thing that I was going to talk about, and I kind of wish I had talked about this earlier because now it's a bit more closer to an afterthought. There has been a lot of discussion about an expanded version of Lux Veritatis, the history of our synod, as well as people asking for a general true Orthodox history that is a bit less dated, since the last large ones, being Mosses, are generally about 20 to 25 years old. I have the materials to put that together. And I will say that recently people have been very kind in terms of their generosity, but I want to be realistic about working on that book because a lot of people are requesting it, but I'm going to be deadly honest. That book would require, just in terms of pulling in all the revision and all the times, it would require me to work probably 2 months with the ability to not do anything else. Like just do my Sunday show and the book. That would be it. And that would mean that basically I'd have to be able to pay the cost for that. So I'm probably going to, I wanted to talk more about that. I'll probably talk about it in a separate video where I talk about the actual costs involved and what the totals will be. But that's where my head is with the book. So until that gets settled and figured out, no book. Just want to make that absolutely clear. I can't work on absolutely everything because you can see the more I try to work on everything, the less I get done of anything. When you're dealing with these projects that we have, these are large projects. I'm working on a book project right today. I'm still waiting on the text. I can't put a whole new project on unless I know that we can cover for it. That's it. So, but as for the debate, that's going to be in November. It's 99% certain it's going to be. As soon as it's 100% confirmed, I will give everyone the details. I will make it live, and I will talk about it. But not confirmed yet. Almost. All right. So we are now in the 28th minute of the second hour. So we're looking at it's looking like about 90 minutes. I don't see any new questions popping up. I myself, I'm thinking that because the conversation kind of got a little bit slower. In terms like we were talking about the pro-life thing, I'm thinking that basically I'm gonna shut it down maybe in about 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, I'll shut this down. I'm gonna give it till 40 minutes in on the second hour. If anyone has any last questions, try to get them in now. If I missed any questions, please remind me so that I can get to them. But it's great to have Father Boniface on and Bishop Enoch on. As you know, Bishop Enoch's channel is Traditional Western Orthodoxy, and Father Boniface is often a co-host on his channel. So look that up in YouTube and follow Traditional Western Orthodoxy. Actually, I'll just put a link to it in the comments.
I did get a number of interactions on the recent.
The Antiochian Western right video. A lot. It got a lot of hits. It was pretty popular.
700. So
a lot of people.
Wow, that's great.
So
could you sum up kind of what their general was? It like mostly hostile? Mostly
no,
like,
I think most people are, inquisitive and positive about the review. So, because there are a lot of people, even World Orthodox people, are critical of like the Corpus Christi stuff and Sacred Heart, and those, a lot of them, actually not all of them, but there are a number that do feel uncomfortable with it. So To some extent, I guess it's low hanging fruit. That's how I view it. But so.
All right, we got some new questions. Patrick Rooney, not a member, asked, "What is you guys' position on race realism?" I'm sure that we're all going to give probably different answers on this. My answer on it is race realism is an incredibly broad term that's usually disguising other people's real feelings.
Is there another? Is it really we have to go through that question?
No, I'm going to go to the next one,
okay.
Unless anyone else has anything to add to that. Orthodox was a member. He says, "Did you see the article from Union of Orthodox journalists regarding the entire Christian world going back to the Julian calendar in 2025?" So it looks like the thing about the Pope changing the Paschalian might have some legs. Like this may be their way of doing a quickie union, is just switching to the Julian Paschalian while, basically keeping the Gregorian Menaion. If that's true, that's gross, but actually, pretty effective. Thoughts on that? Anyone know?
I haven't seen the article. Do you have it pull it up?
I haven't seen it either. Yeah, put a link to it because I haven't seen the article either.
Because I wouldn't. At this point, why would Francis even care? I mean, maybe he'll just say, "Yeah, let's do this." Who cares?
Yeah, he could because your average Roman Catholic doesn't understand what a Paschalian is anyway.
They don't understand why Roman Catholic Easter or Pascha is on the day it is anyway. So if you just tell them on this other day next year, they're not going to. Why are they going to care or even notice?
Jonathan,
I'm still skeptical that it would even happen, though. So.
Jonathan Britt asks, if one were to purchase the entire Menaion and Orthodox, how much would that cost? I would recommend using sites like Amazon and abooks.com to help you reach that number. Cole says, can you show me some bishops in the Bible that have writings about the church? I'm talking to some of my prop buddies tomorrow and would love your direction. I would highly recommend referring to the book of Acts, because that's really where you see the birthday of the church, the apostles putting bishops in the church, so on and so forth, as well as the qualifications that we find for a bishop in 1 Timothy, so on and so forth. You want to focus on the fact that the church is a real and living organism. And so that is kind of where we would go with that. Cole St. Matthias wrote a letter to Diogenes. It looks like, okay, so Wasna has sent the article and share this tab instead. Wow. Okay, well, that was fast. We'll put back the chat in just a moment. No, I'm not subscribing to your Telegram channel because I don't have Telegram. In a communique, the church is all expressed a desire for communique. Excuse me. The church is all expressed a desire for all Christians to celebrate Easter on the same day. Do you want to read this one, Vadika?
No, that's fine. Okay. I'll look at. Maybe I've already seen this one. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, well, we know that Patrick Bartholomew was calling on it because next year they have the same kind of calendar anyway. Unfortunately, this may be their new plan, which is worse than their old plan.
I still think you have a point about numbers going down in World Orthodoxy.
Oh, they will.
And so this is. I really wonder how much of this is just from the perspective of both Roman Catholicism and the official, ecumenical patriarchate rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic type activity.
Yep. That
they're both disintegrating and losing membership, and people are just becoming less religious in Greece, unfortunately, as time goes on. So.
Okay, so let me see here. Sava made some points to Cole, and so that's very good. Also focusing on the Apostolic Fathers. He just said, I thought the Pope was getting hate since he said all religions lead to God. Oh, he is. He definitely is, in the Roman Catholic world. So we're seeing a lot. There's going to be a lot of shifting going on over the next couple of years. Rumpelstiltskin says, thanks. I'm not sure for what. Patrick Rooney says, so no take. If we're sensitive to censors, I understand, but just toss the whole question aside. And plus, you're not a member, so we don't put your question up on the screen. If you become a member, we can, or if you want to do a super chat, we can, or you can even call in using the link at the top of the chat. Orthodox Wazner says, ethnicity is a real thing. I don't understand the question either. Patrick Rooney, and then Sava says, if race realism try to claim that certain races aren't in the image of God, then it's heretical. Correct, Sava? Cole, yes, absolutely. I'm inquiring into GOC right now. God bless you, Father Joseph. God bless you, Cole. Patrick says don't necessarily implied, and Sava says that race realism could be 20 different things depending on who you ask. Exactly my point. You got to be specific. You want to come on and be specific, you can come on and be specific, but it's a loaded term, and the loaded terms are kind of Rorschachs to kind of feel where people are, and trolls can often use them, and not just this, but lots of other things to elicit a response and to see which way can we troll best. If you have a real question like on the subject, feel free to jump on the chat and ask it directly.
You have to be careful on YouTube also, because they'll ban your channel or demonetize for just the, just stating, historical things or whatever.
Just saying Jew too many times will get you demonetized, okay?
Yeah, well, now you've alerted the algorithm.
I only said it once, okay? And I said it generically. I did not say it with any meaning. I just said the word, and as we know, it's spelled J-E-U, and so I clearly did not. I was just talking about the sauce with beef. Patrick says, fair enough. Okay, and that's not how you spell that either. That's J-U-S. But anyway, the point is...
use.
And so I think that's... we're at 136. So if no one's coming in with any more comments, questions, etc., we have about 3 more minutes, and then we're going to call it a night.
Well, let me ask real quick, Father Boniface, what is the state of... is Amendment 4 in Florida going to be defeated or not? What do you think so far?
That's a hard call to make. I think there's a good chance it will, because of the 60% requirement.
Okay.
What the heck is going on?
I think somebody was trying to join the chat.
They're actually... Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to have to edit that. Somebody joined, and not only did they joined with a fake account pretending to be someone else.
Okay.
I guess that's ultimately a sign you're getting more visible when you start getting that sort of perverse and sort of sick thing going on. We're gonna have to probably start. What's the word I'm looking for? Doing a more.
As I understand it, they're going to be in the background, right? Unless you add them to the call, right?
Correct. And what I thought I was seeing was something else. When I realized what it was, I immediately removed it.
Okay.
I was shocked, but anyway.
Okay. I didn't see anything because the banner was blocking everything. I just saw some other window popped up, but yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, in that case, I think we're going to let this. Let me see here. Oh, okay. Starlight says, by participation in such gatherings, World Orthodox hierarchs demonstrate that they have thrown out the window the historic Orthodox conviction that only Orthodoxy is true. Ever since all hell broke loose in the early 20th century, there's been this pluralism disease, which is one of many paths. Forgive me, but this is not what the Holy Fathers would recognize as pious Christianity. Nothing better deserves to be deemed lukewarm. See F the Apocalypse.
Now, remember, the head of the Ecumenical Patriarch in the United States, Archbishop Elpidophoros, was well known for making comments similar to Francis, where he said something like, all religions are going up to the same mountain, and it all leads to the same truth, which is like almost a very Masonic, type, proclamation as such. So, that's that so-called pluralism as they talk about, right? Heretical pluralism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
So, but even though our Lord said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes unto the Father but through me. He didn't say through Buddha or Muhammad or any of these other figures. It was only through Jesus Christ in the Orthodox Church. So,
well, in that case, I think I'm going to let me see here. Yeah, I would agree with you, Starlight. Forgive me, but if you think you're one of many valid paths, the incentive to actually struggle in the ascetic life as an Orthodox Christian disappears. It's rendered absurd and facile. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked about this. This thing that occurred. I just didn't realize that there are people that can be that hate-filled. And I'm not talking about the Patrick Rooney guy. I'm talking about the guy who, it appears, attempted to put porn on the screen. And that bothers me. But we'll figure out a way to clean it off. I'm probably going to have to keep this this stream down until it clears out, in which case I'm going to have to clear out any sick stuff that I saw, and I'm going to have to then edit it. That's why I was able to put back the immigration stream. Ultimately, the reason I did that is because I doxed myself by mistake. I doxed my family by mistake, and so I had to blot that out. But this is not a mistake. This just turned out to be gross because I thought, anyway.
All right. Well, are we finished today then?
I think we're done. I
Okay.
think we're done. All right. Well, glory to God. Thank you for everyone. Let me just say thank you to everyone, to our guests, to our listeners, to Father Boniface here, Traditional Western Orthodoxy, Bishop Enoch, to Orthodox Wazna for popping on. Those who had questions and comments, and those who support our mission. Support the channel. We at NFTU need your help. Support us by subscribing or donating at nftu.net, on Give, Send, Go, or on Odyssey. We remember all of you in our prayers, and thank you for the support for NFTU. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And have a good night. Through the prayers of the Lord, Jesus Christ, God, have mercy on us and save us.
Amen.
Amen.